We've been across the country, back and forth, 3 times. And we've stayed in a lot of RV parks. Today, we're going to give you our top 3 and our bottom 3.
Stick around to the end, and we're going to give you a bonus of our favorite and least favorite overnight stays that we stayed in as we were traveling back and forth.
Hi, I'm Felix.
And I'm Cindy.
In 2019, we sold everything and moved into our RV full-time.
Since then, we've traveled the country following my nursing contracts.
We are the Roaming Gomes. What's up, roamers? Welcome back to the Roaming Gomes. As you can see, Cindy has returned.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. I stayed 5 days going to North Carolina and back. 2 of those were traveling on planes. Almost didn't make the last plane. Got a little scratchy throat from traveling, I guess. And everything went pretty well. Got to visit my mom for her 80th birthday. Saw my dad and my siblings. So it was a nice trip. But
and your daughters.
Oh, yeah. And I got to see my daughters. And I'm just glad to be back. Glad to be back in the dry Arizona weather.
And that was all it took. I mean, she came back with a cold, and now 2 days back, she's
Feeling a lot better.
completely healed. She has been healed.
Not quite completely, but
Well.
it's getting better.
But as we said in the opening, we're going to talk about our top 3 and bottom 3 long-term RV parks that we've stayed at. Now, we're not the type of people that go from RV park to RV park and move every 14 days or every couple of weeks, whatever. Because of Cindy's travel nursing, we tend to stay in RV parks for extended periods of time.
3 to 6 months usually.
Yeah, we've been here for a year now because Arizona. But we will be leaving here in the fairly near future, and that's something we'll be talking about in an upcoming video.
But we stayed in a lot of RV parks and stayed in a lot of different types of RV parks. So we're going to let you know, first of all, we're going to do the bottom 3. We'll end on a happy note. The bottom 3 that we did not care for and why.
So the number 3 worst is Stagecoach Stop RV Park in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. We were there when Cindy had a contract in Albuquerque, and Rio Rancho is literally right on the border of Albuquerque. And it is the only RV park I think we've ever stayed in that it was the staff that made the place not pleasant. The guy at the front desk is bland, not welcoming at all. And the guys who really run the park, which are the 2 maintenance guys, are downright rude. I mean, they had nowhere in their rules at that time, and they've since actually sent me amended rules when we did a review of their RV park, that you couldn't fly a drone anywhere in the park. And there was a guy that was about 2 or 3 doors down from us that was flying his drone one day. And the lead maintenance guy came over to him and said, "Get that effing drone out of the air now, or I will shoot it out of the air."
No warning or anything, just
Nothing. No. He rode over in his cart, and those were the first words out of his mouth. We changed mattresses when we were there, and I took the mattress that was in there, in this RV, and threw it in their dumpster.
which is where trash goes.
I got a text message. Get that effing thing out of the dumpster. I don't care what you do with it. Figure it out. You can't put it in the dumpster.
Also, another thing that really wasn't written anywhere that I remember.
Not at all. And the only other negative of that place was their dog park was divided. And it was supposedly supposed to be large dogs on one side, small dogs on the other side. The fence that was between the two parks was useless. Literally, I mean, the large dogs could go right through it and come into the small dog side. So I had to be very, very careful where I took Bucky. And they were very insistent that your dogs could only go in the dog park. So that's why Stagecoach Stop makes number 3 on our worst list.
As an RV park, it wasn't bad. It was clean. It was neat. They had a pool. It was the usual amenities. It's just that the staff made it uncomfortable. You never knew when they were going to come and tell you you couldn't do something that you had been doing.
Oh, parking your car.
Yeah. I had been parking on the gravel next to our rig, next to his truck, and had done it for
4 months.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they come up and say we can't do that because it's against the rules. So we adjusted, but it was little things like that made it uncomfortable to know whether you were going to get reprimanded for something. And we're adults. Just talk to us, let us know, what the rules are up front. Then we don't have those problems. Number 2 is second worst. Was our very first RV park for a long-term stay, Tulsa RV Ranch. Now, the staff there were very friendly.
They were, and I'm actually still friends with the manager at the time of Tulsa RV Ranch.
And it was fairly convenient to the hospital. It was about a 30-minute drive from the hospital, so that's kind of my limit as what I want to drive to and from work. And so it wasn't downtown Tulsa, which we don't care for downtown things. So it was out a ways and rural, but it was a mess. It was it was supposedly gravel roads. It was advertised as gravel roads, but it was mostly mud. We were there in the winter, so it was rainy, but it was not well kept up at all. There was never any new gravel brought in to make a difference with the mud. There were loud neighbors across from us that they never asked them to be quiet late into the night. It was just not a well-kept park at all. It did have laundry, no pool. It did have, just the basic amenities, a little general store where you could pick up a few things. And also right next to it, basically in the same lot, was a restaurant.
Yeah.
It was like a steakhouse type restaurant that had some pretty good food. But the RV park itself backed up against what was it? A
scrapyard.
Scrapyard, where they were constantly machines 7 days a week, crushing cars.
Even on Christmas Day.
Yeah, moving big pieces of metal. I mean, it was very noisy. We kind of got used to it and kind of drowned it out with whatever we were doing, and it wasn't late into the night, but it was constant all day long.
But it
7
was
days a week.
Very early in the morning.
Yes, very early in the morning. And so it was just not a very comfortable place to stay. It was safe. I felt safe.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel, it wasn't by any means luxurious or resort-like or at all something where you'd want to stay for a long time. We were there 3 months. It was my first contract, and I enjoyed the hospital. I enjoyed the unit I was on, but the RV park, if we ever went back to Tulsa, which I highly doubt, if we ever went back, we wouldn't stay there because it was just, the park was not exactly where we'd want to stay for a long term. So, I mean, if you want to stay there overnight, I don't think it would be a bad place to stay overnight.
No.
If you're going through Tulsa on the highway, it wouldn't be bad. But as far as staying any kind of long term, it really wasn't amenable, especially if it's raining. Just very muddy, very not well kept at all.
And now to our number 1 worst RV park. And these were done in order. So yeah, this one makes kind of made Tulsa look good. And that would be I24 Campground in Smyrna, Tennessee. When we first got there was snow on the ground in Tennessee.
And ice.
And ice. And they didn't have our spot cleared at all. I literally, with my truck, had to slide into our space.
Yeah.
And that was, it turned out to be the least of it.
I don't. It's hard to say what's the worst part.
Yeah.
The rigs are so close together, it's unbelievable. They are not in. There will be some in rows one way, and then some in rows another way, and then some around the edge. There was no
rhyme or reason.
No organization whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, like here, where we are now, you've got rows.
Yeah.
And they're set rows, and people face in certain directions depending on what road they're on. You really had no idea how this park was laid out. And the spaces were right up against each other.
The whole entire lot was gravel. There were a few spots of grass here and there, but most of it, especially where your rig was, all of that was gravel.
Yeah.
And they were constantly, have to give them this much, they were constantly trying to level it out. They were constantly running little tractors and backhoes or whatever you call
even
it,
heavy machinery, yeah.
to bring in more gravel, flatten the gravel, trying to level out the whole area, which was a lot of noise during the day.
The worst part, however, was the laundry room. Now, right off the laundry room, and there was no, the actual machines were the wall between this room and the laundry room. They had a local cat that had kittens, and they were keeping them in that little room. Now, we are animal lovers, unequivocally. We love animals, and I'm the idiot that tried to pet a coyote out here one night.
We don't even eat animals.
Yeah, we don't even eat animals, and you can see that in a vegan video that we did. But the absolute stench that came out of that room literally made the laundry room uninhabitable. You could not go in that room without gagging. It was terrible. And those cats caused a flea infestation in the laundry room. I've never actually seen anything like it. And what ended up happening, to make matters worse, was that I had to go to a local laundromat to get our laundry done. And the laundromat that I went to looked great going in. And then their machines stopped and locked. And I couldn't get my laundry out. And I was one of maybe 5 people in there that couldn't get their laundry out. It took me 3 hours to get the owner to come in and get these machines unlocked and allow us to, all of us, the 5 of us, to complete our laundry. So, yeah, I24 Campground in Smyrna, I wouldn't even recommend it for an overnight stay.
And you may wonder why we stayed there 6 months. It was about, 8 minutes from the hospital?
Oh, yeah, it was right around the corner.
And the other RV parks in the area were exorbitant because it was right outside of Nashville. And one of them was basically an asphalt parking lot with RV sites on it.
And basically, it was exactly that.
And it was 4 or 5 times what we were paying in Smyrna.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable and really unreasonable how much it was, just because it was within driving distance of Nashville. And then, of course, the closer we got to Nashville, the higher the prices were. And we basically were priced out of going anywhere else unless we just wanted to use my entire paycheck for a rental.
And that's not an exaggeration at all.
It was ridiculous. And this was during COVID, so we were trying to kind of stay in one place and not be exposed to a lot of other people, and them be exposed to us because I was in the hospital. And so we were kind of stuck there, and we just adapted and made it through with where we were, and it was near 3 of my children. So, I mean, we could have been anywhere in Nashville and been close to the kids, but like I said, those other RV parks were just outrageous in their rates.
They were charging rates like they were on the California coast.
Yeah. It was crazy. They did have a nice pool.
I will give them that. I24 had a decent pool, which allowed us to have our granddaughter over, and she was able to spend some time in the pool and so on and so forth.
But all around, weighing everything, it was not a pleasant stay at all as far as the RV park itself. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend going back there. I'm not sure where there is to stay in Nashville that's just not ridiculously priced.
Yeah. All right. How about we get to our top 3? And coming in at number 3 on our top 3 list, Sunny Acres RV Park in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I think it seemed even better because we were coming from our number 2 worst, Tulsa, to Sunny Acres. And the place was just, it was beautiful. And you want to talk about leveling constantly. There were all gravel spots, and they literally every day would go over the roads with water and this grading thing, towing behind a truck. And it wasn't in any way obtrusive because they weren't really that noisy. It was just a truck going by for the most part. And, you heard the gravel getting dragged. And it was just once a day and 15 minutes and they were done. For anybody that's into pickleball, they have a couple of nice pickleball courts. The only downside we thought was for a New Mexico campground in southern New Mexico, Las Cruces, they didn't have a pool. And that kind of was odd for us because, it gets almost as hot there as it does here in Tucson. But other than that, to this day, it's the best bathhouses we've seen. And
the staff was very friendly, very accommodating, very helpful. There was a water leak on one side of our lot. I don't think it had anything to do with our water, but it was a pipe that they had to dig down and repair, and they were on it like
that day.
As soon as we said something about there was water standing back there, they got on it and got it fixed.
And by the next day, it was fixed and covered up again.
And there were some grassy areas around the edges of the park. They had
in the dog park. The dog park was all grass.
Yeah, they had a nice dog park.
Yeah.
And all of the people there were friendly, and the people who stayed there a lot were very friendly. The staff was friendly, and it was in a good part. It was kind of in Las Cruces, but because Las Cruces isn't like a metropolitan city, it's kind of a spread out city like a lot of Southwest cities are. It was not congested, but it was close to things. It was close to Walmart and grocery stores and things like that. So we were able to get to things easily, but we weren't really congested up in traffic all the time.
Yeah, and it wasn't all that far off the main road, but you really felt like you were miles off the main road because you really didn't hear anything from back there.
And we could see the Oregon Mountains from our doorstep. We could step out and see the view of the Oregon Mountains, and that was something we were mesmerized by when we first got there. So all in all, it was a really good park. We enjoyed our stay there. We were there 3 months, a little over 3 months. I was going to stay longer, but the pandemic kind of pushed us out to where we are now in Tucson.
Which brings us to our number 2 favorite RV park. And that would be where we are right now, Cactus Country RV Resort. And I know probably anybody who watches this channel on a regular basis would think, wow, that's not their number 1.
It's very close.
It's very close, but there is really, I can't find a negative to say about this RV park, honestly. It's right, and specifically for us, Okay, as Cindy pointed out earlier, we don't like to be in metro areas, and this is about as far from a metro area as you can get. We are basically out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, when you look at an aerial view, which we do a lot of times when we are looking for an RV park, we'll look on Google Maps and look at it from an aerial view to see what is exactly around it. What does the area around the RV park look like? And what it looks like here is an RV park in the middle of the desert, which is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, we see wildlife all the time, as I alluded to earlier with wanting to pet a coyote, literally right here in my spot. But I mean, it's just, the pool is beautiful, the area set up, they've got a hot tub, the rec room is plenty of fun, and there's always activities planned during the busy season, which is now the winter time. It's just the 2 laundry rooms, neither of which have ever been infested with fleas, and it's just. And we were here previously in 2020, as Cindy mentioned, when we kind of got pushed out of Las Cruces because of the pandemic. This is where we came. And it was down to this and one other RV park that we were considering, and now I wouldn't even consider the other RV park.
The staff here are very, very nice. They're very up on top of everything. There's not anything out of order for very long, and the grounds are kept well, and the manager is a stickler for rules, which we like, because if there's a rule, stick to it. And you know exactly what to expect from her and exactly what she wants and what she doesn't want. And as far as management's concerned, everything's pretty reasonable.
I actually did an interview with her for the channel, and I'll have that link up there. And then finally, our number 1 favorite RV park for a long-term stay. You want to tell them?
In Tifton, Georgia, which is about as far from a metropolitan area as you can get.
Yes.
It's in the country.
The Tiffin KOA Journey, which has apparently renamed itself. I don't think they're part of the KOA family anymore. But if you look up Tiffin KOA Journey, you'll still see their website.
And it is out in the country. Tifton is a little southwest of Atlanta, and it's where my contract was for that time, and that was during one of the peaks of the pandemic. We were there for 6 months, and the staff there were wonderful. The area is beautiful, and the grounds there are gorgeous. It is covered in pecan trees.
Oh, yeah.
And grass, green grass, and they take care of it very well. There's always leaf blowers getting things straightened out. Then during pecan harvesting season, they have a machine. They shake the trees and shake the pecans out, and then they have machines that pick up the pecans. So it's very interesting to see that. Also, a few orange trees on the property, and then also on the back of the property they have 2 different ponds and walking trails out into the woods. So it's very nature focused, very quiet. We didn't have a lot of noise at all while we were there, and it was like you were really out in the country and more of a campsite.
Yeah, it was bordering on almost being like a state park. Mm-hmm. We had so much room between our sites. And like Cindy pointed out, the 2 ponds in the back, they had the walking trail that went around it. And it was perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally, as hard as I could think, can't think of anything negative to say about that place.
We were within a reasonable drive to stores that we needed, grocery and stuff. It wasn't that far out in the country, but it was far enough that we weren't at all near any city or city traffic or highway traffic.
So those are our top 3 and bottom 3 long-term RV park. Now let's talk about our favorite and least favorite overnight stays.
So when we travel back and forth from one place to another, we don't make really long travel days. So we end up staying at several places on each trip and staying just one night. So we're not that picky about where we stay overnight, because basically all we're doing is hooking up electricity and spending the night, having dinner, spend the night, get up and move again the next morning. So we do like to be where we can find a grocery store and or restaurants if we need to, but we're not that particular about where we stay overnight, which sometimes has kind of bit us in the butt with what we find. But you want to start with the worst one or the best one?
Yeah, let's start with the worst one. As Cindy pointed out, it bit us in the butt. We were leaving here, Tucson, heading to Tifton, Georgia, and our first stop was in El Paso, Texas, at El Paso Roadrunner RV Park. Thank God that was not the place that we had booked to stay for a long term.
We wouldn't have stayed there long.
No. That is a park we would have unequivocally, even if we did have to pay ridiculous prices, gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
We pulled into our spot, and it was a gravel spot, and that's fine. That's great. It was fairly level. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. However, it was bordered by knee-high grass on both sides in August in Texas. Rattlesnakes. So, and I mean, when I stepped out of my rig, I didn't have 2 feet to stand on that was flat before I was standing in knee-high and then a little bit higher grass.
And the whole, it wasn't a very large park, but the whole park was that way, and it kind of looked trashy and unkempt. It wasn't, you could tell there wasn't any maintenance done at all.
At all.
I don't know when the grass had even been mowed.
There were cigarette butts laying all over the ground. Now, I'm a smoker, and I would never do that.
Yeah.
Okay? But it was a disaster.
I actually didn't feel very safe. I wouldn't have felt safe to stay there by myself, because it was a little, you know, when the place feels kind of sketchy. And it was directly off the interstate, and
that was the reason it was chosen.
Yeah.
Because it was literally, I mean, you could see the entrance to it right there from the interstate.
So, and it was easy pull in, pull out, so we didn't have much traveling to do off the interstate. We could get right back on the road, but yeah, we wouldn't have stayed there more than one night.
No. And our favorite was in Louisiana, Sulphur, Louisiana. Now, when I booked this RV park for our overnight stay, honestly, I had no expectations. The name of the place is the A+ Motel and RV Park. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be some rundown place off the highway that we'll just, you know, pull in, pull out, and that'll be the end of it. When we got in there, we actually said to each other, I'm sorry that this isn't where we're staying for the next 3 months.
It was beautiful.
Absolutely. The whole place is built around this very big pond, probably lake. We could call it a lake. Built around this rather large lake with a fountain in the middle of it. And, I mean, the hotel really doesn't even take up that much of the place. It's more an RV park than a hotel. I mean, they have, I have no idea how many rooms they have, but the RV park itself was even cleaner than the Tiffin KOA Journey.
Manicured is what I would say. The sites were cement, so they were level. Every site had its own grass yard.
Little patio, like,
A little patio and a grass yard in between each of the RVs, and paved roads. There was gazebos around the lake. It was just a beautiful, beautiful place.
And you could fish in the lake. we saw some kids, young kids, fishing in the lake. it blew us away.
It was really unexpected because, I mean, you think Sulphur, Louisiana, really it was just kind of a spot on the map. We weren't expecting it to be that nice. And they had laundry rooms, they had some activity areas with like cornhole and all kinds of little sports and stuff that kids could play. It was very nice.
It was almost like the definition of a diamond in the rough,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, we would have happily stayed there for 3 months or 6 months for a contract. And if you would like to see the review of our #1 favorite RV park, you check out this video right here. I'm Felix.
I'm Cindy.
We are the Roaming Gomes, always hoping to bring you less worry
And more wonder.